Halo is one of the most beloved franchises to ever hit gaming devices. It was once the pinnacle of gaming, with a deep and interesting story and surrounding lore, and a multiplayer that may have very well started console esports. Since then, Halo has fallen in popularity. However, newer iterations into the franchise have garnered a whole new fan base that loves that style of Halo game. But the question is, where does each Halo game rank on the almighty tier list? I am your host, the all-knowing and all-loving Rehab, and today, we are utilizing the incredibly popular tier ranking format that's making its way around the internet and ranking every single Halo FPS game. This will surely be a controversial topic, as everyone has their own opinion, and this is completely subjective. However, my opinion is objectively right, and if you disagree, it's honestly just a sign of your lack of intelligence. With that being said, let's get into it. Now, this Halo tier list utilizes all the Halo games made, including the RTS and mobile games. However, we're only going to focus on the FPS titles. The Halo Wars games and mobile games are cool and all, but the FPS games are Halo's bread and butter. Halo is a shooter first and foremost, and that is what we'll be analyzing today. So sorry RTS fans and mobile gamers, if you guys call yourselves that, but I'm bumping you fools to the bottom of the barrel. And now we begin with the game that started it all, Halo Combat Evolved. Halo CE literally shaped first-person shooters as we know them today. It was the epitome of a system seller. It was the reason to own the original Xbox. The campaign was the beginning of a universe that exists today outside of gaming. Every Halo player knows that first time they heard that iconic Halo music, their first encounter with the Covenant inside the Pillar of Autumn, and that moment the Flood was unleashed. The multiplayer was an entire other beast in and of itself. It launched during a prehistoric time where online gaming and Xbox Live did not exist. This resulted in gamers actually hanging out IRL, weird concept I know, by bringing their Xboxes over to one kid's basement and system linking them together for massive multiplayer matches. All old school Halo players have stories of running home from school on a Friday afternoon, packing up their Xbox and heading to their friend's house for an entire weekend of Halo. I personally miss this boat, as I never had an original Xbox, but I played Halo CE online like a normal gamer via the PC port. PC Master Race, am I right? The multiplayer was so different from anything that came before it, and even the Halos that came after it. Every weapon in the sandbox was useful in its own way. From jump meleeing with rockets to do extra damage, to the plasma guns freezing the enemy player up a bit to slow their escape. Every gun was useful. Halo CE is also probably the most in-depth Halo when it comes to mechanics. From frequent static weapon and power-up spawns, grenading power-ups and weapons to yourself, to back pocket reloads, there's a plethora of ways to put yourself above the competition. At the same time, there are plenty of ways for non-competitive players to enjoy multiplayer as well. Halo CE on a base level was simple to understand, and as a first iteration of the franchise, it had the addictive nature that kept players coming back for more. Nostalgia has me wanting to throw this straight to S tier, however, I'm downgrading this down to A tier due to the lack of content in comparison to all the other titles. Halo CE only featured campaign and local multiplayer, and if you didn't have any friends nearby, you were stuck with a max of 4 players for split-screen multiplayer. I'm taking into account the time that this was released in respect to the content it offered, but it just doesn't have enough for the almighty S tier. Halo 2 built on everything that Halo CE did and made it better. This game launched with online multiplayer via Xbox Live, and it was groundbreaking. Not only did they allow you to play with your friends from your own house over the internet, but they included features like leaderboards, clan matches, and the implementation of the 1 to 50 ranking system. Halo 2 ruined the social lives of countless teenagers, as they neglected their family and friends in hopes of achieving that iconic level 50 Halo ring. Halo 2 implemented hit-scan-based shooting as opposed to the projectiles that Halo CE used. This sped up the gameplay to an insane rate. The game also featured multiple accidental glitches that could not be patched out, resulting in button combinations that took the skill ceiling of the game to a whole new level. Online sweaties dedicated their entire lives to perfecting the BXR, BXB, and double shot in order to dominate the competition and find their way to internet fame. However, Halo 2 offered more than just a platform for competition. Halo 2 had a lot to offer to those who didn't want to throw on a sweatband and apply deodorant every time they play video games. No, the ability to customize game types led to fan-made custom games that could be enjoyed by everyone. This was the birth of Zombies, which was later implemented into Halo 3 and deemed Infection by Bungie. Back before this was an official game type, players lived and died by the honor system, where the infected would spawn with a sword and everyone relied on players to switch to the infected team once they were killed. Being able to place a turret on the map birthed another fan-made game type, Tower of Power, where multiple teams would battle for the almighty tower with the turret, where you could dominate the entire section of the map. Halo 2 also allowed you to put on a handicap if you were playing with a friend that was way better than you. If Slayer game type just didn't do it for you, you could hop into custom games to do the many super bounces hidden throughout the game, where you could load in and sword cancel your way out of the map. Halo 2 had something to do for everyone, no matter what kind of gamer you were. So with all this praise for Halo 2, why exactly am I placing this in the A tier instead of S? Well, Halo 2 was plagued by an excessive amount of hackers and cheaters. From DDoSing, to host bridging, to lag switching, to straight up hacks, it was impossible to make it to the top of the ranking system without running into cheaters. The leaderboards gave cheaters a reason to exploit the game in order to get their name onto Bungie's Wall of Fame. It was so excessive that Bungie took down the leaderboards and reset the ranks of everyone multiple times throughout the life of the game. Most pro players were not even able to achieve level 50, due to running into cheaters at the top of the ranking system. While Halo 2 may have offered the best gameplay in the series, it cannot be considered an S-tier Halo game due to all of these issues. Halo 3 was undisputably the pinnacle of the Halo franchise. Bungie yet again improved the offering they had in almost all aspects. They took the ultimate cliffhanger in Halo 2 and created possibly the greatest ending to a story in gaming history. They took the core Halo gameplay and turned Halo into a true sandbox with the addition of an in-game map editor called Forge. This was the first of its kind as far as I know, and this allowed the community to create all types of new custom games. They included a file share for players to share their creations, and even had a Bungie Favorites tab where the company could highlight their favorite community creations for the entire world to see. This created an entire community of players who would spend the majority of their time in the game just creating maps and game types for others to play. This game truly felt like a community of players that all just wanted to share this beloved franchise together. They added an EXP progression system for players that were not into ranked play. This gave players that stuck to social a rank to strive for. However, this was not perfect since your EXP rank was tied in with the 1 to 50 leveling system, where you were restricted on what you can achieve, only being able to get the highest rank of general if you were able to achieve level 50 in ranked play. In response to this, Bungie added individual playlist EXP ranks, where you could become a general in every playlist, social included, by winning games in that playlist. Cheating was still an issue in Halo 3, with deranking, boosting, and host booting or DDoSing being the biggest culprits. But overall, it was significantly toned down from Halo 2, and I felt that although it was certainly present in ranked play, it wasn't so significant that it ruined the experience of others. Bungie also implemented Theater Mode, which allowed players to go back and watch their previous matches and campaign gameplay from first person or third person view, and save their footage for later use. This was huge for community creation, and resulted in the ability for the community to easily create content. Halo 3 was also the first iteration that tried adding a third element of gameplay in the form of equipment. While this was removed from the competitive settings, in vanilla settings it added another way to alter the battle and resulted in constant variations in gameplay that helped keep the game fresh. Halo 3 was also the face of console esports. It was the flagship title of Major League Gaming, and the best players were able to make a living by competing in the game. But it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. There were a few negatives with the game. The gameplay was changed from Halo 2 to feel slow and more floaty. You jumped much higher, that sort of made you feel like you were stuck in the air. Your movement and strafe speed was significantly reduced, which really slowed down the pace of the game. It was such an issue that MLG actually changed their settings to 110% movement speed in order to compensate. Bungie also decided to revert back to the projectile-based weapons of Halo CE. However, this created an issue with the netcode that resulted in inconsistent hit registration when playing Halo 3 online. This was regardless of your connection, but was significantly worse in poor connection environments. This also gave the host of the online lobby a significant advantage in each match. But despite all of these issues, Halo 3 is in fact an S-tier Halo game. The first on our list. Let's see if we have any others. Halo 3 ODST was technically the next Halo shooter to be released. It launched with a campaign, firefight, and the full Halo 3 multiplayer with all DLC. For those reasons, I wouldn't really consider it a full game, because it honestly could have just been released as Halo 3 DLC. However, it technically is its own title. Firefight was Halo's iteration of the wave survival game type that was making waves in all AAA games. But it was honestly done very well, and still felt more like Halo than a cheap knockoff of the popular mode. They implemented skulls that would activate on a per round basis, and this game was all around a great source of fun. The campaign was much different than we're used to, since you're now a weaker ODST as opposed to a Spartan, and it was a lot of fun for what it's worth. I don't really have strong opinions about this game, but I'll throw it in here as a C tier Halo. Halo Reach. Longtime viewers of this channel know exactly where I'd like to place this one. Do longtime viewers of this channel exist? Anyway, my dislike of Halo Reach can be summed up by this one snipe down clip.
This game sucks! This game fucking sucks!
Bungie fundamentally changed Halo in multiple ways, the biggest being the addition of Bloom. The Bloom mechanic was introduced to force players to pace their shots. However, the outcome was awful. The way the mechanic worked, the reticle would increase in size as you shoot, and the bullet could go anywhere within the bloomed reticle. The problem was you could be pacing your shots as intended by the developer, but your opponent could spam 5 shots as fast as possible and kill you purely out of chance. Inversely, pacing your shots still wouldn't always result in you hitting your shots, since even with a high hit rate potential after each paced shot, you could still get incredibly unlucky and miss even if a sliver of the expanded reticle was outside of the opponent. It brought the variable of chance into every single gunfight, and I will never forgive you for that, Bungie. Another fundamental change was the armor abilities that were implemented in lieu of Halo 3's equipment. This included things such as Jetpack, the notorious Armor Lock, active camo, and for the first time ever in a Halo game, Sprint. We haven't recovered since. These armor abilities were huge controversies among the community. Some people liked them, some hated them for the sake of hating change, and others disliked them because they felt they didn't belong in Halo. Whether they were a great addition or a detriment to the game is for you to decide. Bungie also took a step away from the 1 to 50 ranking system we have come to know and love. Instead, they implemented seasons and divisions. Your rank was no longer decided by a simple win or loss. You now got a rating for each game you played that was calculated based on your individual performance. Kills, assists, and deaths were all accounted for. This resulted in less focus on playing together as a team and winning, and more focus on selfish individual play. Due to a lack of good maps shipped with the game, competitors were forced to play on mostly forged maps, which were completely gray and dull. Competitive play also took a huge hit. With popularity dwindling, MLG decided to drop Halo Reach from the pro circuit. Now, as much as I love hating on Reach, there were a lot of positives in the community aspect of the game. Halo Reach is regarded as having the best Spartan customization. They allowed you to pick and choose what you want to spend credits on to unlock, instead of forcing you to unlock in a linear fashion. It also allowed you to customize every single part of your armor, which was a huge step up from the few options you had in Halo 3. Bungie also significantly improved Forge, and introduced Forge World, the biggest map Halo has ever seen. This allowed the community to be even more creative in producing content for the game. Some players regard Reach as the best Halo, and I believe that's due to the positive strides the game made in the community aspect. However, I'm not one of those players. Halo Reach is absolutely a C-tier Halo game. Halo 4 was 343's first installment into the franchise, and oh boy does it show. Right off the rip, there were a few questionable decisions that perplexed Halo fans. The iconic BR was back after a hiatus from Reach, but it was now a 5-shot kill. This just seemed like a change for the sake of change, and it didn't feel right. 343 also decided to launch without any ranked playlists at all. Everything was social. They later implemented ranks into the game, however you could not see them in-game. You had to look up your rank on Halo Waypoint in order to see it. It was just one of those decisions that didn't seem to make any sense. Furthermore, Sprint was now a permanent addition to each player, and it was no longer an armor ability. Each player now had access to Sprint at all times. Halo 4 decided to keep armor abilities for each player, and took a few further steps away from classic Halo by implementing loadouts, perks, and care packages. This game seemed to be chasing industry trends being set by Call of Duty instead of staying true to its identity. The competitive scene was almost non-existent. The once leader of console esports was now a joke, with professional players basically going to tournaments just to socialize as opposed to compete. The population dropped off just a few months after launch, and the game was soon forgotten. The only new iteration in this game was Spartan Ops, which included side missions to continue the story. But these missions were boring and reused areas from the actual campaign, so it didn't feel fresh. It just seemed to be included so that they could market a new, never-before-seen mode. There were a couple positives to Halo 4, one being the removal of Bloom. I personally had fun with Halo 4's gameplay, however, without a visible in-game rank, a boring progression system that could be maxed out in a couple days, and the feeling of being a Call of Duty ripoff, there was no reason to continue to play this game. There was quite literally no replayability in Halo 4, and it showed in the quick drop-off in player count. I've always stated that Halo 4 was a better game than Halo Reach, but after going through these games in detail, I cannot in good conscience rate Halo 4 higher than Halo Reach. Halo 4 is a D-tier Halo game. Halo 5 was 343's second chance to win over the hearts of Halo fans. The game looked promising with an incredible marketing campaign in Hunt the Truth that had fans excited to see where the story was headed. A $1 million tournament was announced, which could be increased with crowdfunding, and a renewed focus on the arena shooter Fair Start seemed like competitive Halo was making a comeback. A new PvP plus PvE mode was announced in Warzone, and things were looking up. But there were some issues. With the gameplay, 343 doubled down on Sprint and decided to implement Spartan abilities, which included Sprint, Ground Pound, Spartan Charge, Clamber, and Stabilize. This was a further deviation from the classic Halo formula. Some embraced these additions while others resented it. The gameplay of Halo 5 is still heavily debated to this day. However, the bigger issues were with the management of Halo 5. Competitive players were forced to play with automatics and radar, things that have always been removed from the competitive playlist due to being deemed uncompetitive. Even with feedback from the professional community, their voices seemed to go unheard. Changes either were not made or were implemented way too slowly. Outside of this, the campaign seemed to be far from what the marketing material promised. Matchmaking launched without social playlists, meaning all playlists were ranked. This alienated a huge portion of the community that have no interest in ranked matchmaking, but only want to play casual games. The game also launched without staple playlists, such as Big Team Battle, Team Snipers, or Team Doubles. Once Big Team Battle did come out, it was released without a single developer-made map, and it never got any. All maps are forged by the Forge community. The game launched without Forge, theater mode was server-side so all playback was inaccurate, and the game overall was just incomplete. It was frustrating for players, because the game seemed to have such potential, but mismanagement from the developer plagued the game. Halo 5 had solid gameplay, but due to all of the outside issues, Halo 5 is a B-tier Halo title. And that finishes up our Halo tier list ranking of all of the Halo FPS titles. Halo 2 Anniversary Multiplayer was omitted from this list because it was like a fraction of a game, so I didn't want to include it with all of the AAA releases. But I want to hear what you think. Halo fans have extremely strong opinions regarding each and every Halo title, so I want to know how you would rank each game. If you disagree with my list, well then make your own. This is my list. And if you enjoyed this video, share with a friend, leave a like, comment, and consider subscribing. We put out one new video every Sunday. Well, except last week, sorry about that. So be on the lookout for future content. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video. Later.